Why tithe in the Old Testament? In the Old Testament, tithing was not merely fundraising mechanism. It served multiple purposes. 1. To support the Levites. The Levites were set apart for tabernacle and temple service, and hence did not receive a territorial inheritance like the other tribes. Numbers 18 verse 21. Purpose is to provide for those dedicated to religious service. 2. To support temple worship. Tithe helped sustain the worship system, sacrifices and activities centered around God's house. Malachi 3 verse 10. Purpose is to maintain the operations of the temple. 3. To care for the poor and vulnerable. Every third year, a special tithe was collected for the needy. Deuteronomy 14 verses 28 and 29. Purpose is social welfare and community care. 4. To teach Israel to fear and honor God. Giving was an act of acknowledging God's ownership and provision. Deuteronomy 14 verse 23. Purpose is spiritual formation and reverence. 5. To acknowledge God as the source of increase. The tithe reminded Israel that their harvest, livestock, and prosperity came from God. Proverbs 3 verse 9. Purpose is gratitude and recognition of divine provision. 6. To express covenant faithfulness. Tithing was part of Israel's covenant obligations under Mosaic law. Deuteronomy chapter 12 verse 32. Purpose is obedience to the covenant God made with Israel. Now, with this understanding that tithing was part of Israel's covenant system under the law, and that the new covenant has replaced the old covenant, as in Hebrews 8 verses 7 to 13, should Christians who live under the new covenant still be obligated to tithe as Israel did? Here, let's compare. The Levites were supported through tithe. Today, Christian workers and ministries are supposed to be supported through voluntary giving. The poor were cared for through tithe. Today, believers are instructed to care for the needy through generosity and love. God's house was maintained through tithe. Today, churches and ministries are supposed to be sustained through willing contributions. Tithing taught dependence on God. Today, generosity still expresses gratitude, love, stewardship, and trust in God. Let's note the following. 2 Corinthians 9 verse 7. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give. Acts 2, 44 and 45. Believers shared resources according to need. 1 Corinthians 16, 1 and 2. Believers were instructed to set aside offerings regularly. 2 Corinthians 8 verse 12. Giving is according to what one has, not according to what one does not have. In conclusion, the Old Testament commanded a tithe. The New Testament commands generosity. The tithe set a minimum. Grace in the New Testament calls for a willing heart. The question is not, must I give 10%? The deeper question is, am I honoring God with what He has entrusted to me? And if generosity is the New Testament standard, could it sometimes require more than 10%? Or sometimes less, according to your capacity?